We know of. Hey, what's up, everybody? It is another edition of Star Trek Deep Space Nine Retro Review. I'm here with Pete. What's up, Peter?
I'm good. I'm good.
Peter and I were thinking deeply about what may or may not happen inside those hollow suites, Pete. You never know.
Yeah, well, I don't know, man. If it involves Klingons, that shit could get
I
nasty.
was thinking the same. If it involves Klingons, it could get kind of rough inside those hollow suites. The
Yeah.
question is, who has to do the cleanup job? You can watch Lower Decks to find out the answer to that. Anyway, tonight we're getting into a lot of O'Brien torture porn here. O'Brien, the long-standing tradition of Miles O'Brien getting tortured in Deep Space Nine more or less starts in this little batch of episodes, which are what happened? There you go. The alternate, the Armageddon game, Whispers, Paradise, and Shadowplay. And before I forget, thank you everybody. We got a few new subscribers. Thank you for those that have subscribed. If you're listening, excuse me, if you're listening to the Strange New Worlds podcast and coming from there, thanks a lot. And we're just talking Star Trek, folks. We are enjoying Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And this is my second time watching it. This is feels like a first time for Pete, right? Because he watched it on and off back in the day. So it's
Hmm.
kind of cool. You get two different perspectives here on Star Trek. Here. So we're gonna go get right into it with the alternate. And this is a story by Jim Trombetta and Bill Dial, teleplay by Bill Dial, premiered on January 10th, 1994, directed by David Carson. And we get to meet Odo's dad, Dr. Mora.
Hmm.
Okay, he's the guy that helped Odo develop his shape shifting abilities. He's like a father like figure for Odo, and he comes to DS9 to reconnect old bonds, okay, which may have grown apart. And what he says is that there's the chance now, with this wormhole opening, that there could be others like Odo on the other side. So they go on this little mission to the Gamma Quadrant. And when they get there, they find this mysterious ruin that they bring back to the station. And all hell breaks loose. There's this, it
Hmm.
becomes like B Monster movie. Right? Am I mixing up these storylines? This is where they find the artifact that they bring back to the station, right? Because I
It's
know
not an artifact. It's supposedly a life form.
it's a life form, but it don't they find like some type of like mini pyramid or something, and they
Yeah, it's
take a
it's
piece
not
of
like a
it or something?
pyramid. It's like a tablet or something.
Yeah, it's a tablet, which I thought was so irresponsible of them to just take this back to the station without knowing
Yeah,
what.
especially after everyone gets fucking poisoned.
Yeah, you know, they just take it back like it's nothing. They don't put it in. I think later they put it in some type of stasis, but it's kind of reckless of them taking a life form aboard. And anyway, this is what's happening. What do you think of this episode, Pete? Because we got a lot of these monster of the weeks, if we're going back to
Hmm.
alien of the week, situation of the week episodes here. And what do you
Yeah,
think of this one?
I seem to recall enjoying it a lot at the time, but now when I look back on it, I really struggled. Like I had to look up the details. So I mean, I enjoyed it at the time, but it didn't particularly stick with me. What I liked about it at the time was that first of all, it's a very Odo centric episode. I mean, he's a mysterious guy. We got lots of unanswered questions about his past. We get to meet his dad, which is cool. And
Yeah, you can see
Odo
where he gets
is
his haircut.
exactly, yeah, like he modeled himself after this guy. And even though like he doesn't have parents, I mean, he obviously has parents, but doesn't know who they are. This guy is like a dad to him, and like all kids, he's got daddy issues, right? Like,
Yes,
oh my
big old
God, you
one.
were only interested in me as a scientific curiosity. You didn't care about me as a person. And even though he has all this resentment, you can tell like he still really looks up to this guy. Like, you were the person who taught me literally how to be a man. Like, I was just a jar of fucking liquid before I met you. And, you kind of taught me everything I know about being a man in like the literal physical sense of not just the physical sense, but also in the mental sense. So that was a lot to process, but it was good to see. Gives his character some development. Um, and you got this like mystery monster running rampant on the space station, which, spoiler alert, people, turns out to be Odo. Odo being on this planet somehow fucked him up and caused him to lose control of his shape shifting ability, and every 16 hours, he's turning into this beast who's basically acting out his repressed subconscious rage.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and I mean, I guess this is why it wasn't as memorable as it seemed. Because when I watched it, I really enjoyed it. But then, like, like 2 weeks later, I'm like, I don't remember that. And I think it's because that aspect of it fell a little flat for me. It felt like a very convenient explanation.
Exactly. Like after all the other stuff that does happen with Odo, especially when he finally does meet the other founders, this seems so inconsequential that he's got daddy issues.
Yeah.
Um, but I agree with you. Like at the time as I'm watching it, like I like the interaction between father and son. I like how well Renee just masterclass in acting, just how
Hmm.
he shrinks, next to this guy. You see, because he's so confident. He's so, the man of the station, goes
And
where
you
he
can
wants.
tell he still wants his approval so badly. Like
Yes,
when
but that's the
when
thing, and that's what's
when he
cool.
tells him like, "Oh, you've done quite well for yourself," but he's like, "You could be doing better." It's like, "Oh, Dad just burned Odo. He's not doing well enough for him."
I know it's an interesting interplay. It's very nice. It's funny because I have a bit of a relationship like that with my older brother, who raised me. Because I was adopted, and my older brother is about maybe a bit young, but more or less the age of what my biological dad could be. Maybe 5 years younger or so. Um, so he did kind of, he was more of a father figure in that sense to me than my actual dad, as far as taking me out, showing me new rock bands and this and that and the third. So I'm like that, when I'm around him, I shrink a little bit. It's like I have daddy issues in a way, with
Yeah.
him, where I can't be myself. I don't know how to be myself because I'm still looking for that approval of, oh, and he's very critical. He's very much like this moral character. He's a very critical person. Uh, so it's so cool to see that how Renee was able to. It's these subtle things that he does, and the way that he walks, the way that he talks, to let you know, okay, he's shrinking down. He's not Odo the man at the moment. So that part was so cool. And in fact, he has a great conversation with Cisco about daddy issues, and for the nitpickers and the
Yeah,
Easter egg
Cisco's
folks.
father is apparently dead,
Yeah,
but he's not.
yes, yes. And I believe there's another episode coming up where Cisco also uses that in the past tense. But yes, Cisco's dad is definitely not dead, as we find out in later seasons.
Yeah.
But right here, he very much is. In the end, there was nothing my father could do and nothing I could do, about any, getting each other's approvals, etc. But and I like the kind of horror tone of it for a while with this beast running around.
Yeah, that kind of a Leviathan vibe because I mean, I don't really know like the science behind how Odo's chemistry works,
Oh,
but
there's no
he
science.
seems
It's
he seems
techno
pretty
babble.
malleable, right? So I
Yes.
mean, he could be a lot bigger than he is, which is
Hmm.
actually how it turns out to be.
Yeah, but it's a bunch of techno babble. That's where the episode gets boring. Is that they get all these techno babble explanations of why it's this, why it's that, what could it be, how do we contain it, how do we do. And you're like, what? And then in the end, it's just Odo, like Pete said, just like letting out all his daddy rage. And it's like, what? So it's pretty inconsequential. It works for the episode more or less, like the inter relation the what do you call it the relationship between father and son, Odo and Mora. It's nice to
Mm-hmm.
see that other side of Odo, but then it's inconsequential for the end. Although there is a B plot, which is also father and son story, which I liked a little bit more, which is Jake trying to get the guts to tell his dad that he does not want to be in Starfleet,
Yeah,
to be a writer.
yeah.
I like that a lot. I like that. It's a little plot line, plot point that
But
pays
it
off
doesn't go
dividends.
anywhere because Cisco's so cool with it, right? It's like it's more about Jake finding the courage to tell him. Because
Exactly.
when he does, Cisco's like, yeah, that's fine. And that's it, right? There's no big confrontation or anything. He's like, all right, that's cool.
Yeah, no, Cisco is like the best dad ever. Um, so yes, he's very accepting, but I still liked it because it shows Jake growing up, and Jake making his own decisions, and it's stuff that in the end is going to pay dividends. The fact that Jake does become a writer. So unlike the Odo story, that really, the fact that he has daddy issues doesn't really um, play much of a part in the rest of Odo's development that much. His other issues do. His being away from the founders issues is a
Yeah.
bit more of an issue later.
One one
But
thing I really
Jake,
liked about oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I was just gonna say Jake being a writer definitely
Yeah.
is important for the later seasons.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was gonna say like the one thing I really liked about Rene's performance in this is it's more like what he doesn't do than what he does do. Like anytime his dad burns him, like usually Odo's got a fucking comeback. Like whether it's to Kira, whether it's to Dax, whether it's to Quark, like he always gets the last fucking word. And this guy just renders him mute. Like he gives him looks, and they're not looks like you bastard. It's like, fuck, what do I have to do to get this guy's approval?
And the dad is a bit of a prick, man, using that psychological torture
He
on Odo to
he
get him
is.
back.
Yeah.
And the doctor used to do like didn't he have the they always mention this, the Cardassian neck trick or something. They never show what it is, but you know,
No.
so there's stuff that Odo definitely resents about his father. You feel that too, because he did help him, and that's a difficult relationship to be in because it is somebody that's helping you, and
Yeah.
like Pete said, literally turning you into a man, but it's also
Yeah.
somebody that's abusive and has control over you.
Yeah.
So you're stuck in
And
this,
someone who used you too. I
and
mean,
absolutely used you for their
yeah.
betterment, to grow as a scientist or whatever. So you want to hate this person, but you can't. You love them too. It's complex.
Yeah.
I agree 100% with Pete. As I'm watching it, although I thought the ending was kind of flat, I enjoyed it. It's just after the fact. It's an episode that if you watch it or don't watch it, it's not gonna
Yeah.
matter much. So that gets us into Miles torture, Miles O'Brien torture.
Hmm.
And I saw Pete was posted about this episode on Facebook. The
Yeah.
Armageddon game. Uh, all right, let me go here to my little synopsis. Armageddon game. It premiered on January 31st, 1994. It's written by Morgan Gandel and directed by Winrich Kobe. And O'Brien and Bashir assist a non Federation world, the Talani, in destroying several reams of their terrible and now unwanted biological weapons, the Harvesters. But just as they're getting ready to do once over on the last ones,
Yeah.
destroy the last harvesters, they are attacked by a group of Talani who attempt to kill anyone with knowledge of the all too deadly harvesters. What a
Hmm.
hell of an
Which is
episode!
not actually that deadly as it turns out.
Why not? Isn't it not that deadly?
Well, because O'Brien gets it and
Oh
he
yeah, yeah, he
gets
gets
better
infected.
pretty quickly.
Yes, I forgot about that part. That O'Brien during the shootout, some of this stuff falls on him or something, and he gets infected, which leads
No,
us.
that's the crux of the episode, man.
Yes, yes, that leads us to what the best part of this episode is, which is more
The
relationship
bromance.
building, the bromance that begins to bloom between Bashir and O'Brien because they escape and they're on the lam and they find a little cave or something that has an old communication device in there. And O'Brien starts to try to fix it, and then he starts getting a fever, a rash, and he loses his eyesight, and you realize, oh, he's been infected, and uh, he needs to work with Bashir to fix this thing. So Bashir becomes O'Brien's eyes and hands while
Hmm.
O'Brien works him through it. Which, by the way, guys, is the episode. I just did the Strange New Worlds review last week, and I mentioned that the one scene from this last week's episode is very similar. It's to this because in that episode, Uhura gets stuck in the cargo bay with the engineer who broke his arms or his hands, so he can't operate things and he needs to walk her through it. Just that this is done way better because it builds up what is going to be a really strong relationship between these two characters. It shows us how different they are but
Hmm.
how they can connect. You know, they talk about marriage, about Starfleet life,
Yeah,
about
the
the
first thing Bashir brings up when they're alone together is pussy. It's like, yeah,
yes,
some of those chicks are pretty hot, man.
I know.
And O'Brien rolls his eyes like, what the fuck's wrong with you, man?
But that's what's great about the two of them.
Yeah,
That it's no, that's and that's what I love about DS9 so much, even more than the Next Generation. Because the Next Generation did this too, which is coupling. You know, they would just put
yeah,
two characters together and see what can work. But everybody's such a big happy family on
exactly.
TNG that okay, they're good episodes, but they're not. It doesn't cause that friction. And
Hmm.
in DS9, yeah, you get an episode where Kira and Quark are stuck together, where
Yeah,
Odo and I don't know, Garrick. There's one coming up with the two of them get stuck together, and it's like these two characters that you think will never get along, and they manage to find some common ground. Especially the Odo and Garrick one, Pete. When you get to that one, you're gonna love that episode. Really good one. Um, and you realize, oh, these two characters are more alike than they realize, or they balance, you know, they offset each other perfectly. And that's Bashir and O'Brien. They're diametrically opposed one to the other, but they need each other. You know, I think Bashir sees O'Brien as like an older brother, almost. You know, this stability person that he wants to have in his life too, instead of just being after pussy all the time. And you know, Brian, in a way, vicariously is like, man, you know, I wish I could be that. You know, I'm married and I got kids, but that seems kind of fun too. You know, just to be a womanizer,
yeah.
and they're just perfect together. By the way, Chief O'Brien's last words before they get going with the destroying of the harvesters is, I suppose one day won't kill me. Famous last words.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's the crux of the episode. That and Keiko actually does some good detective work here, kind
Well,
of detective work. Yes, we'll
it's
get to that
it's
in a second.
bizarre detective work, man.
Yeah, bizarre, and in the end, not that correct. It was a stroke of luck there because they're
Yeah,
watching this video, you know, because Cisco has to give her
because
the bad
well,
news.
the thing is, they're supposed to be dead, right? These
Yes, they're
aliens.
dead
They
because
tell DS9 that there was a terrorist attack, or not a terrorist attack. They tripped a security device, and
yes,
everyone got vaporized.
and they
And they
have
send them the
video.
fucking video. Yeah,
Yes.
it's like, yeah, they're dead, man. And actually, that was one thing I really liked about this episode too. It wasn't treated casually. Like people
Mm-mm.
were genuinely upset. Like, oh my god, even if Bashir was an asshole, like he was still our colleague. Like we kind of liked the guy.
Yes. And Keiko, she takes it pretty well, I thought,
I
but
did
she's
too.
sad, you know.
Yeah.
Well, man. I wrote in my notes here. I said Keiko takes O'Brien's death well, but I'm sad, and I know he's not dead.
Yeah, exactly.
um, and Quark, I love Quark's line. They were good customers. Good customers
Exactly.
are as rare as latinum.
Rarer than
You know?
latinum. Yeah.
Yes, you got to treasure them. But then Keiko comes storming into the Cisco's little office there, and she's like, "Coffee," you know. He's drinking
Exactly.
coffee, and he never drinks coffee. What is that, at night or something?
No, in
Whenever
the afternoon. In the
in the
afternoon.
afternoon.
Yes.
Yes, yes, exactly. Never drinks coffee in the afternoon.
I mean, it's
And
space. What is the afternoon in space anyway?
well,
I don't know.
yeah, I guess they gotta have a clock in space. They gotta have the space clock on the station to keep everything in
Exactly.
some sort of
But you know what that
schedule.
is, man? Like, I swear to God, it was a shout out to this old commercial. It might have been before your time because I think it was in the 70s. There was this coffee commercial for like a brand of coffee that I don't even think exists anymore. And this married couple are at a dinner party, and the husband they satirize this in Airplane actually, and the husband is asked if he wants a second cup of coffee, and he accepts it, and she's like, Jim never takes a second cup of coffee at home. So this was, I think this was like a deliberate shout out to that old commercial, like, I know
Oh,
my
okay.
husband, he never drinks coffee in the afternoon.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen that commercial. I gotta look that up later. Um, but yes, that was it. That was the clue. And she's good. She's able to convince Cisco to like look at this tape again and you know make sure that it has
Yeah,
not been
they
tampered
find
with.
inconsistencies. Yeah.
Yes. And and in the end, the folks are trying to. They do find Keiko. Oh, Keiko. They do find Bashir and O'Brien in the cave, and you get that last minute save. Trek style last minute save.
Hmm.
What they get transported off the planet or something. They're able to find them, but the for me it's a entertaining episode. The crux of it is the Bashir O'Brien thing. You're watching it for that because the rest is kind of ridiculous. Like Pete said, I guess the virus. I didn't even think about that the virus isn't that deadly. I was thinking more like, man, just fly that stuff off the planet. Like send it to the sun. Like you got to go through this whole process to get rid of this deadly biological weapon because
Yeah.
the thing was they didn't want anybody who even had the knowledge of this biological weapon alive, so that's why they
Yeah.
went and murdered everybody. Um,
Yeah.
but
What cracked me up about it though is like the big introduction scene where they're like, "Oh, this is so bad. This is so bad. Thank God we're rid of it." And I'm sitting there watching it thinking, "Shit, what does this do?" And I was like, "Oh, wait, dude, you'll find out. You'll find out."
yeah, exactly. Also, somebody in the Jammer site said being able to wipe memory engrams seems a common procedure in the 24th century. It makes much more sense for Bashir and O'Brien to agree to do that afterwards than risk bad relations with the Federation. If they found out if this the Talarians, whatever, were discovered for
Right.
committing murder. There's like a lot of very easy solutions to this. We want to make sure nobody ever builds this again problem, which
Right.
doesn't include killing Starfleet officers or killing your own people. But then again, if you want to kill your own people, kill your own people. But just get the Starfleet officers home, or don't show them. I don't know. I guess to destroy this shit, they needed to know how to make it. I don't know. That part is whatever. The good part of this
Hmm.
episode is O'Brien and Bashir in the cave. So it's the reason why
Yeah,
I
and
give it this
but
much.
the ending though, I mean, that was
Oh,
so
that
bad.
was so dumb.
Be- it was funny because like the only reason like they found out they were still alive is because Keiko, being the ball busting wife that she is sure that Miles would never be drinking coffee in the afternoon, and then at the end he has coffee in the afternoon. She's like, "What the fuck?" So that was a nice little punchline.
I know it is. Shit. Keiko gets so shit on though. It's like the one win that this lady gets, which are very few, they take it away with that line. That's the only reason I didn't like it, and it takes away from the um gravity of the episode. It's kind of a heavy episode to end on. Oh yeah, I was wrong about the coffee, you know. Uh, but whatever, it happens. Let's get into more O'Brien tortures back to back. Miles
Yeah, I
O'Brien
know.
torture, and this is
This is like a
whispers.
1-2 punch.
I know, man. Whispers. Man, I should have put that in the description. It's the Miles torture. I just completely forgot that these are the Miles torture episodes. Um, Here, guys, in Whispers. Wait, I forgot to switch over here. Let me get up here. It's a episode that aired on February 7th, 1994. Written by Paul Robert Coyle, directed by Les Landau. And O'Brien returns from a security briefing. And as always, guys, I'm using Jammer reviews here, so check out his page for the synopsis and stuff. O'Brien returns from a security briefing to find everyone on the station acting strangely towards him. Before long, O'Brien suspects a far reaching conspiracy that encompasses everybody on DS9 and possibly into Starfleet Command. His suspicion continues to mount as he discovers his activities constantly being monitored, his orders change without his notification, and station security measures consistently shutting him out of the loop with no explanation or no apparent reason. So it's a paranoid thriller
Mhm.
here. What do you think of this?
Yeah.
The whisper.
Well, I'm a big fan of the writer Philip K. Dick, who
Mm-hmm.
is known for, I guess, Blade Runner mostly, but he did a lot of science fiction about questioning your identity and the nature of reality. And I think this episode had a lot of that influence because man, you get paranoid like right along with O'Brien. Like it's like what the fuck, man? Like you can tell like right away, like okay, his wife is the closest person to her and to him sorry and right away you realize like something's not right there like she's acting kind of funny and then you see it gradually extend like I like that they didn't hammer you over the head with it like at first he thinks okay like everyone's fucked and against me but Odo's cool right? And then he goes to Odo with his suspicions, and Odo rats him out. And Jake is actually the last person he trusts, right? Don't know if they ever explain why that is. Like, I think maybe, because Jake's not
Maybe Jake
actually
was out of the
staff.
loop.
Exactly, because Jake's
Yeah,
not
because he's not
staff. They
stuck.
didn't let him in on what's going on. So yeah, it's like, man, Jake's like the one dude I can trust. But obviously, later in the episode, they get into it and yeah, it has. I don't know. It totally got me. I never saw it coming. That's one thing I really like about some of the Deep Space Nine surprise endings, like the one we were talking about last week, the murder mystery. It's like, oh shit, it was Kira. I had no fucking idea. Like,
Mm-hmm.
never saw it coming, and this was like that. And yeah, basically, what the premise turns out to be is that O'Brien is actually a fucking replicant, like straight out of Blade Runner, man. Thinks he's
Yes.
real. He totally thinks he's O'Brien. He has all his memories, thoughts, and feelings. And he's been inserted on the station to disrupt this peace negotiation between a planet that's at civil war and he finds out at the end he traces all of the senior staff of the station to these negotiations and he gets fatally shot with a phaser and the last thing he sees is the real O'Brien coming out of hiding as he's been rescued or whatever and the last thing he says to him is tell Keiko I love her. So I mean, as far as he was concerned, man, he was the real
It was real.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, it was very Philip K. Dick. Like anyone listening who appreciates Star Trek and likes good science fiction writing, Gotta read yourself some Philip K. Dick because I'm sure he was a huge influence on Star Trek.
Uh, yes, I've never read the book, The Blade Runner, but I can't stand the movie. But I feel you.
The
There
books are
was
actually a lot funnier. The tone of the movie is quite dark, but the story is essentially the same.
it's what when robots dream of electric
Do
sheep?
androids dream electric sheep? Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've never actually read that, but I'm interested in doing it at some point. Um, but yeah, I wasn't as big of a fan of this one as you were, just mainly because of the ending. Like I didn't, it didn't hit home for me. The ending, like it was supposed to be emotional with him, saying, "Oh, what does it tell my wife I love her?" But
Yeah.
I yeah, for me, it just meandered a little bit. I just couldn't connect with the plot for whatever reason. But it is a good episode. It's a good episode, but I just erased all my notes here, so I can't tell you why. I can't remember back that far. No, I'm serious. I was backspacing a little bit, and I backspaced beyond where I should have. Um, but I just remember I gave it 2.5 stars. Like it was interesting enough, but I wasn't invested in this mystery, like of what's going on. Like it did throw me for a loop in the beginning because I was like, okay, is this gonna be another one of those uh space virus type episodes because everybody's acting a little bit weird. The one scene that I did love though is him thinking that Keiko had poisoned his dinner. That was cool. That was
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
yes. Um, and then in the end, it was just like weird payoff with the whole replicant thing and the clone, and I was like, what? Anyway, that's how I feel about it. Like, man. Anyway, so I'm gonna move on to yet another O'Brien episode. This
Yeah.
time it's
A
O'Brien,
co
and
O'Brien episode.
there's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch. There's this later on, Pete. There's gonna be another O'Brien episode where you're gonna get two O'Briens, which I think is a little bit better than this one. So let me know what you think when you get there. And it kind of has a similar ending with one of them dying. Okay,
Mhm.
Paradise. Not the shitty song by Coldplay. This is a story by Jim Trombetta and James Crocker. Teleplay by Jeff King and Richard Manning and Hans Beimler. Directed by Corey Allen. And so Cisco and O'Brien beam down to a planet. They find a human colony that has been stranded 10 years with no means of escape. And the colonists have been forced to abandon all forms of technology, none of which work due to a bizarre interference in the atmosphere. But it turns out to be more than just a coincidence. Okay, the colony leader
Mhm.
Alexis, played by Gail Strickland, is a naturalist extremist who's always resented the effects of technology and has had the effects technology has had on mankind. She believes man has become fat and lazy, and the story goes from there. Basically,
Mhm.
folks, this lady started this cult down there. Okay, it's kind of an interesting story in that sense because they land on this planet, and you're like, at the beginning, it kind of seems cool. It's like, hey, we're back to nature, we're back to nature, and then you get the
It's the
first
dark
sign.
side of hippiness.
Yeah, this is the happy side of hippiness until
Yeah.
you see the one guy come out of the box.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the
Because
people dying from lack of medicine too.
oh yes, because what did the guy do? Think he it was a punishment for something. He's got to
No, he
stay in the
stole
box. For a bit.
something. He stole
He
something.
stole something. Yes. And this girl Alexis, she reminded me a little bit of Janeway, but maybe more Catherine Hepburn. She had a kind of a weird way of talking like that, and uh, she is a insane woman. That's pretty much the only way to describe her. She's
Yeah.
insane. She's on a power trip, and we start to discover that they're not stuck on this planet because this planet has some weird um, spatial shield around it that doesn't allow for technologies. They put the shield there.
Mm-hmm.
She has been lying to these people. And what does she say? Perhaps a lie can lead to a more important truth, okay?
Yeah.
Because Cisco and O'Brien, you know, they they're doing their investigative work and they find this box. Cisco, by the way, gets put in the box, which is crazy,
Yeah.
man.
He gets fucked up pretty bad from it too.
Yes. Cisco is like, I won't be forced to be a hippie, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So the bitch is the one, she's blocking tech. One thing that I did note in this episode is that they have terrible underwear in the future. Apparently, there's a scene here with underwear that stood out to me. Also, soccer still exists in the future, but baseball doesn't. Didn't. Okay. Uh, but yes, slowly but surely here, Cisco and O'Brien got to figure out a way to get off this planet and get people to realize that, hey, if you want to be a space hippie, you can do it, but you got to give people choice. And that I like. I like this message in Star Trek. And I especially like this message in Star Trek, Pete, because there's a group of folks out there, and you know who they are, Peter. They have iPhones and they eat at McDonald's and wear Che Guevara t-shirts, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they really love to trump this idea that, and I want to make a video about this. I just never have the time or the patience to do it. That Star Trek is this socialist utopia, in this communist utopia, in this, and I don't buy it for a second. For me, I see Star Trek as a bit more libertarian, humanist. Yes, okay, there's a thing with like, okay, we don't have any money. Everybody kind of, spreads the love, but it's more. I've always seen Star Trek as more, it respects the individual and individual choice, which I don't always see that coming off of the socialist political aisle side of things, because that they're very much follow the
Yeah.
leader or go to the gulag, or like this the hippie bitch here, like
Yeah.
love nature or go in the box.
Yeah.
So and willing to lie, to get people to believe that nature is wonderful. Nature is wonderful, but you should have the choice to live out nature if you want, or if you're like Pete and I, we can love nature for a weekend and then go back to modern society, you know? So I like the message in this because it hits that hammer. It hits that tone of we are about individual rights. That's what Starfleet is about. And I love the way that Cisco goes about it, which is different than Picard, because Picard would have given this whole big speech and try to be diplomatic about it. Cisco's like, bitch,
He he leads by example, man.
he leads by example. He's like I'll stay in this damn box. I am not gonna be a hippie. You can't force me to be a hippie.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not just that, but she lets him out and he's all fucked up. And she's like, look, like, I don't expect you to change overnight, but just make a gesture, like, lose the uniform. And the guy puts himself back in the fucking box himself and closes the door
Oh,
behind
I
him.
love
He's like,
Cisco, man.
take that, shove it up your ass, bitch.
I love Cisco so much. And then Miles comes back with firepower.
Yeah, yeah, it comes back with a working phaser because he shuts down the
Yes.
energy
So
field that's fucking up the
he's like,
planet.
let's talk now, bitch. Let's have a conversation. You know.
Yeah.
So basically, the moral of the story is that space hippies are fucked up,
Mm-hmm.
and we know this if we have been fans of Star Trek way back when, because the original series has more than a few episodes with fucked up space hippies. The hippies are a problem. In the
Yeah.
Star Trek universe.
I do
Hippies are a
gotta
problem.
say too, man, that this writer Jeff King, he was actually the showrunner of a really famous Canadian show called Due South,
What's the
which
name?
I've Due South, yeah,
Oh, I think I've
um,
seen that. Yeah.
yeah, I've never actually seen it, but I was looking forward to this episode because he directed a Steven Seagal movie called Kill Switch, which was like
Mm,
literally like one of the worst directed Steven Seagal movies. I've seen like 40 of them. And it was
oh,
like really like one of the most poorly directed movies of actually anybody. This is like one of the worst directed movies I've ever seen. But it
mm-hmm.
turns out he was not actually the director of this. He was just the writer. So I did not get a chance to see if his directorial skills were just that movie or this one time thing.
Well, you're gonna have to watch some episodes of Due South, but it's online here.
I
I'm looking at it here.
guess, yeah.
You can find it. But yeah, I actually talking about this episode. I think I upvoted it a little. I think I'm gonna upvote it. I had it at 2.5. I'll give it a solid 3 stars,
Mm,
just because yes, hippies in general can be a problem, and space hippies are even worse. And I don't know. I have so much anger towards these folks who try to manipulate and control your life, even if it's for what in the end could be a good cause, right? But I just
yeah,
don't feel like you should manipulate people into believing in a good cause. It should come
yeah.
from an honest place, and I
But
think that's
from
a good
mm,
message.
yeah, I don't know. For me, this didn't work largely because it tipped its hand too early. Like you
Hmm.
figure out that the bitch is behind it way before Cisco and O'Brien do,
Hmm.
and also the fact that when they expose her, they actually decide to stay with her. It's like, okay, I understand that you like the lifestyle, but oh, actually, yeah, that was the thing. They took her prisoner. So yeah, because I was like, okay, you could stay there, but you should fucking kill this bitch. Like, it's like thanks for the nice life, but it was under false pretenses, so you die. But yeah, Cisco actually takes her prisoner at the end. But yeah, no, I wasn't a big fan of it. It was a bit too obvious. Didn't really make it work for much. Posed some interesting questions, but I mean, like right away, you're like, oh man, this like as soon as they say like I've never had replicator food, it's like, oh man, this bitch has always hated technology, so she totally manufactured the situation.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and that's a running theme in as you could say in Deep Space Nine in general. It's this idea that people from all walks of life can be corrupted, you know, which I think
Yeah,
is an interesting theme where you take something as nice as this idea, because it made me think, this episode, Pete, made me think of that. Well, that's 2 times now that I brought up insurrection. I think we talked about it last week too. Um, but in insurrection, they were like that. Yeah, it was this idea of like, oh, we're done with technology. We've decided to live off the land and blah 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 blah. But that's done in a more holistic way, I guess. They made the choice, and other people that were from that planet didn't make the choice. Blah blah blah. Um, and DS9 takes that idea and just twists it a little bit and puts
yeah,
like a darker edge to it, which I appreciate. I always like the DS9 darker edge. Likes to show both sides of humanity, not just the happy family side. But anyway, we're gonna move on to the next episode, which is Shadow Play.
hmm
And it's the episode that premiered on February 21st, 1994. It's directed by Robert Shearer, written by Robert Hewitt Wolf, and it's an outing by Odo and Dax. Speaking of putting two characters together
odd
that
couples. Yeah,
yes that aren't always together, and they're out doing whatever they do out in space, and then they find a planet. Oh yeah, they're scouting planets right in the Gamma Quadrant, and
yeah.
then they find a planet with a small community of humanoids who are disappearing one by one, and it's revealed that the entire community, people and all, are an elaborate holographic simulation, in that the people are vanishing due to a what do you call it?
Malfunction, technical
Function,
breakdown.
technical breakdown. to this machine. And this is pretty perfunctory. Like nothing really amazing happens here aside from Dominion. Like this
Yes,
is
the
a
Dominion gets mentioned again. Third time now, I think.
yeah, and you do get some nice scenes. Odo getting grilled by Tax. Odo getting being grilled by Dax about sex and relationships. They do mention the
Yeah.
Omicron. Yeah, there's Omicron particles. There's actually, when the whole Omicron, the COVID Omicron was big in the news, some Trek geek made a compilation of every time that they say Omicron in Star Trek. Planet, apparently it's a planetary system and planets, and I didn't know there were particles too. So they
Yeah.
say Omicron, Omicron, Omicron.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
it's the Greek fucking alphabet, man. It's not like conspiracy theorists latch onto this. Like, where the fuck did they come up with these names from? It's like, dude, you're so fucking stupid. It's the Greek
yes,
fucking alphabet.
yes. Uh, it's not like naming hurricanes, although that's also
Exactly.
Although there's a great, it's not even a skit. It's just Robin Williams being Robin Williams on a sitting on somebody's couch on a talk show, and whenever he did that, like the host just didn't need to talk, and he does
Yeah.
this thing about imagine if the hurricanes were named. They have such bland names. They should all be named after black women. So it'd be Hurricane Shaniqua and Hurricane Shawanda and
Have they
Khalid.
not named a hurricane Shaniqua yet?
I don't know, but he's like, those women got some power. If Shaniqua's coming over and she's mad, you gotta get the
Yeah.
fuck out
No,
of the way.
that chick who played the representative for the healthcare company in Crash, her name was Shaniqua. And like
Really?
she's exactly what you think a Shaniqua would be. Like she's got broad shoulders, giant boobs, bad attitude.
Lawanda and LaQuisha and
Yeah.
Moesha. So anyway, um, so here, yeah, we do. I like those scenes with Dax because Dax is just very sexually liberated, let's say.
Yeah.
And Odo is the opposite of sexually liberated.
Yeah.
Sexually repressed.
Yeah.
And
It's like I
so,
haven't figured out how to make a penis yet. Don't talk to me about my sex life.
which is such bullshit. Let's call out some DS9 bullshit. And one of the DS9 bullshits for me has always been the fact that Odo can figure out how to morph into a fucking rat with like 100 hair follicles, and he can become a dog, and he can become all these very complex, and he can't
Yeah,
figure
but
out.
he can see a rat. Has he ever seen a dick?
No, but I mean, he can't even form a human. Like, I'm not even talking about the dick. I'm just talking about that
Right,
his
his
forever
appearance.
line.
Yeah.
That's his forever line of, oh, I've never been able to replicate a human face that well. But you can become a fucking rat, which is,
Right.
I believe, way more complex of a face than a human. Or a dog. There's a future episode where he becomes a dog. And it's like, what? But anyway, it is what it is. And yeah, I don't think, yeah, like just looking at an anatomy book, I don't think a penis would be that difficult to replicate or to morph into. I mean, if Data is fully functional, as he says, I think Odo could figure out how to get some pleasure, or would he feel pleasure? That's the thing.
That yeah, that's the thing. Like, would it do anything for him?
Yeah, I don't know if it would do anything for him, although that might do something for the women or the men.
Yeah.
It's the 24th century, whatever. Depending on what he does while he's in there, as far as the shapeshifting ability, he'd be very popular with the ladies and the men. So it by the time I get to this episode, man, it really seems like they're really, really trying hard to keep the cast off of the space station. They're trying to
Hmm.
do a little bit of trekking in this Star Trek. Uh, but the space station was where the real action is. So I'm so happy when finally we get back to the space station. Because all these episodes of them just going out to meet these alien races, adventure of the week, alien of the week, I love it, man. But keep it to TNG, Voyager. Those shows are better for that. DS9 is. it's the name is there. Deep Space Nine. I want to know what's happening on the station. That's where the real action is. That's where the drama is. Um, so it was way too many episodes. Like I was telling you, Pete. For me, the middle of this season just drags. It drags
Ah,
into.
I like this one a lot, man.
Oh, you liked it? Okay. Yeah. For
Yeah.
me, it got until they get to this blood oath. And profit and loss is okay, but blood oath from then on, boom, it hits home a little bit more for me.
Yeah.
Cisco's trying to get Jake a job in this episode, okay,
Hmm.
which is a cute little storyline. And Jake doesn't want to join Starfleet. Wait, not sure to tell his dad. Didn't we already do that? I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe I
You
confused
put
their
your notes in
storylines.
the wrong place. Yeah.
Yes, I don't know what's going on. But anyway, Jake does not want to. Maybe he doesn't tell his dad that he wants to be a writer in that other episode. I don't know. That's weird. Why would I write it twice? But in either case, he's trying to get him a job. He's trying to help O'Brien out and do all this stuff. Also, the Vedic shows up on the space station and he wants to do Kira. I told you he wants to do Kira, man.
Hmm.
Um, and Kira
Yeah,
is
yeah,
not.
that was a great little subplot because the whole reason that Vedic is there is to keep her out of Quark's business. He brings him there to like get her to lay off, doesn't he?
Lay off
Because
Quark's.
yeah, 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 and they almost do it too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Kira realizes that the whole reason that Vedic is there is because Quark has brought him on station to get him to distract her.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Because what's Quark up to in this episode? I
Hey, he's
didn't
up
write
to
anything about
something.
Quark.
He's up to
Yeah,
something.
I didn't put any Quark notes. I just know that Kira disagrees with him on his religious views, but topic changes quickly. Um, no, but I think they finally get it in this episode. Kira and
No,
Vedic.
they don't. They don't. It gets broken up at the end.
Did they? Because they definitely fuck, man. They definitely get together.
Yeah, not in
She's
this episode.
okay. But then I put here.
Because I was looking for that. I was looking for that. It's like, oh, Kira's gonna get some, but she realizes she's being played, so she backs out.
Okay, okay. Um, yeah, it feels like I'm rereading my notes here. Cisco is best space dad by approving of Jake not wanting to join Starfleet. So forgive me, guys, if
Yeah, that was this episode. That wasn't the one we previously discussed.
yeah, that's weird. That's weird how okay. But in either case, and he has the best space dad for letting him join Starfleet, and it is everything that I had said before. Is it like Pete said? There's not that much drama because Cisco's gonna approve, but I just love all the different perspectives on this space station, and one of them is this young man. He's coming to that age where he's trying to figure out what he wants to do with his life, and it's not the same road that his dad's on, and that's a difficult thing for some kids. Especially a space
Hmm.
kid. It's like an army kid, army brat,
Yeah,
realizing, hey, not only don't I not want to be in Starfleet, I want to do something completely opposite that has nothing to do even with space exploration. I mean, I want to be
right.
stuck inside of a novel all day in my room writing. I you could, of course, that would cause a little bit of internal conflict for young Jake Sisko, and I love Jake. Really well written character, especially if you compare him with
To
Wesley.
Wesley.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Shut up, Wesley. Although that's banned in so many Star Trek groups now. They don't let you say "Shut up, Wesley" anymore because Will Wheaton has gone through a lot of mental strife and depression and
Yes,
everything,
yes.
and it involves things like that, like being told to shut up. But anyway, um, but yeah,
Yeah.
this episode for me it was kind of lame, but one is that what makes it is we find out that the Dominion's out there. That his
Mhm.
whole that scene where he breaks down and says that, hey, the minion drove me off my home world, so I came to this
Yeah,
other.
that's the thing. Like, not everyone is a hologram. That like one guy created this just
Yes,
to like have a community.
exactly, because he's been driven off his world. So he's like, I created this community, so that's what I thank you. Make them again, and they do. But aside from that, not much to see here. You know.
Yeah, I disagree. I really like this episode. Again, very Philip K. Dick. Philip K. Dick, his whole thing was about the nature of reality and self identity. Like another movie that was based on a Philip K. Dick story, very loosely, I should add, is Total Recall, which is
Mm,
about a guy who has been brainwashed to be a good guy so he can infiltrate them and then betray them
yes,
eventually.
that movie I've seen. I love that movie.
Yeah, yeah. And Minority Report was also based
Oh, that's
on
another
Philip K.
great
Dick.
one. I
That's
love.
another one like, is your destiny predetermined? Can you change it? And this had a lot of the same themes, especially when Dax and Odo are talking to the holograms and they tell them, like, dude, you're a fucking hamburger. Basically, like you're not real. But the thing is, you think you're real and that makes you real. And so
Mhm.
because of that, we're going to try and help you. Like we think even though you're not human beings like us, you still you have feelings, you have emotions, you have memories, you get old, you die, you have children. So as far as we're concerned, that still gives you value. So I think it has a really profound comment to make on like what constitutes life, what constitutes being a real person.
Mhm.
And also, I have to say, I love this little actress, Noli Thornton, who
Oh
played the
yeah, she was
granddaughter.
cute. The little girl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She was in Beverly Hills 90210. She played Dylan's long lost little sister, and it was bugging me so much when I first saw her. Like the first 5 minutes, it's like, man, those big eyes. Like I know that kid from somewhere. And I didn't. I thankfully I didn't even have to look it up on IMDb. I was like, oh shit, that was Dylan's sister. So yeah, she had herself a pretty nice little career as a child actress. Don't know what she's doing now. She was on Quantum Leap too, apparently, and she's done some voice acting. But yeah, really good little child actress. Hope she's doing well. But it was nice to see her in that.
Yeah, I've never seen her in anything other than this, but she was cute. Usually, I'm not a huge fan of kid actors, um, especially yeah. Speaking of kid actors, the little girl that played Leia this weekend. Good lord, how do you go from making a character lovable and then making them absolutely ridiculously stupid in the space of 2 episodes? That's the problem with kids when they put them on shows is they think it's a child, so we're gonna write the child making stupid decisions. You're in the middle of a rescue and you're gonna stop to buy gloves and you're gonna run away from the person that's rescuing you.
I
But
haven't seen episode 2 yet, man. No
oh
spoilers.
fuck, I thought you
I'm a
did.
one episode a week guy.
Oh well, they were back to back. I figured you'd watch them because they premiered together. So you're gonna be behind because
Yeah,
next
I'm
week's
gonna be
episode.
behind the whole way.
Yes, I'm sorry, but anyway, it's frustrating. Uh, but this girl was not. Although she did not, she didn't stay when they told her to stay. They said stay here, and then she walked towards where the hologram was having malfunctions. Um, I like that you pointed that out because I did have that in my notes. Speaking of Star Trek Voyager, the best character in Voyager, and it's the one that kept me watching through the first two horrid seasons. It does get better in season three. Voyager does. Is the Doctor though? The Doctor, the holographic Doctor, played by Picardo, not Picard, Robert Picardo, and it's incredible the character growth that he gets throughout the series because he starts out as just it's a tool, it's a hologram, hologramic emitter, turn on, boom, fix this guy, okay, turn off, and then little by little the crew starts to realize and the doctor starts to realize he can remember when he was being turned off and he doesn't like being turned off. So it starts with, hey, can you just leave me on so that I have the option, and then that leads to, hey, I'd like to see what the rest of the ship is like, which leads to, hey, can you transfer me into the holodeck so that I can you know experience something other than being stuck in the medical suite, which then leads to one of the great episodes from Star Trek Voyager, which it connects to this episode, um, is him asking for his rights, and asking for sentient being rights, because he finds out that his creator has created like a bunch of versions of him, and they're being used to mine some planet. They're used like slaves, because it's a hologram. What do they have to say about it? They just send them down there and mine. It's a great episode. That's on the level for me of Measure of a Man, but it's just done long form because you really got to follow the doctor's growth throughout the series to the point where he's treated as an actual, sentient being and member of this crew, and he fights for hologramic. I said again, holographic rights. So it is a good point that DS9 makes in this episode, but I guess I just had that other storyline in my head, and I thought that's done much better in that sense. This is just like a quick fix type of, are these people real or not? Do they deserve to live or not? Do we have the right to just turn them off or not? But it's kind of like a quick fix type of way to get about that. But it's a good question, and it's a great, one of those great Star Trek ethical questions of, what constitutes life, and should we respect all life, including the Gorn? Those cute little lizard creatures. Should we respect them even though they want to eat us in space? You know? So cool, cool, cool. And so again, apologies there for getting all my notes mixed up there in the middle, but Cisco and Jake do have a heart to heart. In that other episode, Pete, by the way, they weren't talking about him being a writer. It was Cisco trying to do his homework, which was Klingon opera. And they do have a
Yeah,
funny,
yeah, yeah.
that's a
When
funny
have you
line.
ever used Klingon opera? Yeah.
And he's like, when I
Well, I
was
gotta
your age.
say though, Klingon. I watched an episode, a few episodes after the ones we're covering today, and there is a bit of the big fat restaurant owner walking around his restaurant singing Klingon opera. It's like, yeah, man, that's not bad. I can dig
I can
that.
listen to some of it. I can listen to some of it. I can get into it. Uh, yes, but it's a funny scene, Jake asked his father, "When was the last time you listened to this?" And Cisco's like, "When I was your age."
Yeah,
And it sucked, but you got to get through it. Um, but I'm with you, Pete. I could definitely better than Bajoran music.
yes.
I would go to it, and I imagine Klingon's got a hell of a. Imagine a heavy metal from Klingon. You would get
Hmm.
into that. That would be some heavy, heavy metal. But anyway, let's get our skip and watch list here. The
Yeah.
alternate, which is the episode where Odo's father figure, Dr. Mora, comes on the ship. Is that a skip or a watch?
Ah, I'm kind of torn. Like I'm like really on the fence, but I'm gonna say skip. Not that it was a bad episode, but it doesn't stay with you. Like even if you watch it, you'll forget it like 3 days later.
I'm with you. Definite skip for me. Started out well. I liked the first 20 minutes or whatever, the first two acts or whatever. But then, boom, it just went nowhere. Interesting.
Hmm.
It's forgettable afterwards. Armageddon game,
Ah,
where
yeah, Major
Orion
Watch. Yeah,
Bashir on the run.
yeah,
That's a
Watch for
watch.
sure.
Yeah, that's a definite
Yeah,
watch.
it's so entertaining. I mean, it doesn't contribute a lot to the mythology, except maybe for building the bromance up a bit, but man, it's entertaining as fuck.
I agree. And then we got whispers. We got O'Brien wondering why everybody's acting wacky. And then we find out because he's not O'Brien. Not really.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Watch for me as well.
Man, I don't know. I just, for whatever reason, this doesn't hit with me. But it's a good episode. So I'm going to give it, I'm going to be objective and say, watch it, guys, because you'll probably like it. It just didn't do it for me. Because it is a good episode. Um, and let's go with Paradise, where Cisco and O'Brien go down to the hippie colony, space hippies.
Yeah, that's a
Technology.
skip for me, mostly because it's just too flagrantly obvious.
I'm with you. Although I like to see, I'll be objective again. I like this episode because I just can't stand the space hippies. But
Mhm.
it's like it's everything that Pete said is right. It's just very obvious. You know what's going on. And I mean, you get some scenes of Cisco being badass, but there's plenty of that in DS9 to come. You'll see much more of Space Jesus in action. Um, and then we got Shadow Play. Odo and Dax investigate the disappearance of several missing people. That's the episode we just talked about, and they're all holograms.
Hmm. Yeah, definite watch for me. I enjoyed this a lot. Again, a lot of Philip K. Dick influence in this batch of episodes, even the ones I didn't like. So, and it's weird. They're all written by different people, but I mean, you still had the same two dudes presiding over the show. So, I'm sure they had something to do with that.
I'm gonna say it's a meh, kind of just an okay episode for me, but it's got the Dominion talk, and I like, what I was saying from that other episode. I thought was the other episode is actually this one, which is important. The character development for Jake is really important in this, with him deciding to be a writer, because that has big dividends later on in the series. So that's an important and big dividends as far as the father son relationship that Jake have, which is really Pete. I almost cried. There's an episode coming up in season 4. Good lord. Yes, father son relationship is heavy in DS9. So you got to get whatever you can to build up to that. You got to watch. So Shadow Play is one of them. So that you'll be bawling your eyes out when you get to the visitor in season 4. And that is it for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I'll be back on Thursday for some Strange New Worlds talk, or Friday, maybe. And we'll be back next Tuesday to talk more Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Okay? We'll be talking some Klingons and some Maquis, and it's going to get heavy.
Yeah,
All
this is
right.
actually right up to where I'm watching right now. The episode I watched tonight was, let me just double check that. Profit and Loss. So yeah, this is actually um, 2 episodes removed from where we finished today.
Oh, I think you're going to fly through these next ones, man, because Blood Oath is great. And the Maquis
Yeah,
is.
I pretty much
I
only
think.
watch like 4 episodes a week though.
No, but when it gets good, that's the thing with Deep Space Nine, man. Because when I did my first watch, it wasn't a rewatch. It was like an episode a night, maybe 2 episodes, and then once the shit starts going, it's like boom. You gotta watch the next episode. And there's a lot of to be continued, to be continued. You're like, okay, like this happened to me last week. It was like 12:30 at night. I'm like, oh, let me get one episode in to be continued. I was like, fuck, man. But it was so good. I was like, all right, I have to watch what I. And then I go to the next to be continued again. I was like, fuck you, Deep Space Nine. But it was so good.
I remember
You
that
gotta watch.
watching it the first time. That was like one of the reasons why I didn't watch it on a regular basis because it was syndicated too. So like you
Yes.
never knew what channel it was going to be on, what time it was on. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
network shows like okay, Seinfeld's going to be on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. It's like yeah, whenever it shows up on TV, and it's like oh, for fuck's sake, man. I was having a harder enough time following the story as it is, and now it's to be continued, and it's really good, but I don't know when I'm going to see it again. So fuck this show.
Yeah, I know. And I think the streaming sites have given Deep Space Nine a new life.
Yes,
A new
exactly.
generation of people have been catching on to how great this show is. So we're here for that too, for the Deep Space Nine revival, which has been going on for about 10 years or so. But it's still, you always see new people in the Star Trek group saying, "Oh, I just watched this for the first time, and it's fucking amazing." And it is,
Yeah.
and it gets better. That's the thing. So here we go, folks. We're out for real now. See you later. Have a good night.